Hey everyone. In honor of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire being in theaters, I figured it's a good time to update my King Kong ranking. I'll get to Godzilla eventually, but it's been longer since I did a King Kong ranking, so I figured that one comes first. I'm taking a break from the Omega Blade, but I'll be back to that next week. For now, here's this. As always, spoiler alert. Starting off, number 10 is King Kong Lives. This movie is not nearly as bad as its reputation suggests, but it's still the low point of the franchise. I genuinely cannot tell if this is a paycheck movie for Linda Hamilton or something she genuinely cared about, because there are some moments where it seems like she's genuinely putting in the effort, and then others where it seems like she couldn't care less. The rest of the acting ranges from bland to over the top. The villain is too much of a one-dimensional cartoon to take seriously, but for all this movie's problems, it's not boring. It's not good, but it crosses over into so bad it's good territory plenty of times, like the heart transplant scene. They give King Kong a heart transplant with a giant artificial heart, and it's supposed to be taken seriously, but it's goddamn hilarious. My score is 2 out of 5. Number 9 is Son of Kong. 43 minutes. It takes 43 minutes for this 70-minute movie to get to the titular Son of Kong. The lead up to that point is at least somewhat interesting, and the plot is fairly coherent, but considering this movie came out the same year as the original, it's obvious it was a cash grab and they rushed it. I do like that we get more character development for our leads. That's something. More than the first movie gave us, actually. The stop-motion animation is just as great as it was in the first one. The music is pretty good. But ultimately, yeah, this was a cash grab, and it feels like it. My score is 2.5 out of 5. Number 8 is King Kong 1976. This movie is pretty faithful to the original, but still makes enough changes to prevent it from feeling like a complete retread. Unfortunately, it starts to feel like more of a retread as it goes on. Like, the journey that it goes on is different, but it ends up at the same destination, if that makes sense. The special effects are a mixed bag. Some hold up very, very well. Others are instantly dated. This time around, Kong is played by someone in a suit instead of stop motion. Those effects look great. acting is good. Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange at least have some good chemistry. The music is fine, but not particularly memorable. Unfortunately, this movie's not fun. Like, it's good, it's well shot, it's well edited and all that, but it's not fun. The original King Kong is fun. Peter Jackson's version is fun. The MonsterVerse version is fun. This movie is not very fun. Score is 3 out of 5. Number 7 is Godzilla vs. Kong. I hope the people who complained about the first 3 movies focusing too much on the human characters are happy, because they're not allowed to complain anymore. Godzilla vs. Kong has some of the most epic kaiju action in the MonsterVerse so far. But the humans, new and returning, are so thinly written that they feel more like plot devices than actual characters. Alexander Skarsgård is the only actor whose character actually gets something resembling an arc. That being said, this is a pretty satisfying payoff to the 3-movie build-up we've had. The cinematography is fluid and dynamic. The musical score is great, though it pales in comparison to Bear McCreary's work in the previous film. VFX are some of the best in the franchise so far. The action is excellent, and the Hong Kong battle might be the best action scene in the entire MonsterVerse up until this point. And this movie has one of the better incarnations of Mechagodzilla to date. This movie was really the point where the MonsterVerse started to feel like the Showa era of Godzilla, and I mean that in both good and bad ways. My score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 6 is King Kong Escapes. All things considered, I would not have minded seeing more Japanese King Kong from Ishiro Honda. King Kong Escapes has the distinction of pitting the famous giant monster against its robotic doppelganger a full 7 years before Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. The writing isn't the best, but it's on par with King Kong vs. Godzilla, likewise with the acting, which is often campy, but overall still pretty good. The movie's rarely boring, and the final fight is pretty cool. Also, I shit you not, the villain's name is Doctor Who. Overall, this movie is a step down from King Kong vs. Godzilla, but the ape suit is definitely a step up from that movie. The score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 5 is Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Like I said, the MonsterVerse is essentially in its Showa era, and I'm here for it. If nothing else, this movie is at least a step up from Godzilla vs. Kong. One of that movie's problems is that it didn't give its returning characters any new development. This movie actually takes its returning characters and gives them some additional depth and development, and fleshes them out more. and it works. It's not great, it's not the best, but it still works. And like in Godzilla vs. Kong, the monsters have more personality than ever. These versions of the monsters are genuinely just going through their own character arcs, and I kind of love it. The action is great, the visual effects are the best in the franchise so far, music is pretty solid, and the pacing is on point too. The score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 4 is King Kong 2005. It's obvious that Peter Jackson is a huge fan of the original King Kong, and he made this movie as a love letter to it. The only problem is that said love letter is 187 pages long. The acting is solid, the action is pretty epic, CGI is hit and miss, but it mostly hits. The bug pit scene is one of the scariest scenes in any non-horror movie. And Andy Serkis is fantastic in the titular role. The music is great. Jack Black is a step down as Carl Denham, but he's still pretty good. It honestly baffles me that Andy Serkis hasn't won an Oscar yet. The score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 3 is King Kong vs. Godzilla. This is probably the biggest crossover of its era, and it mostly lives up to the hype. The monster suits are not great, but the action is solid, and the human characters are at least fun to watch, if not fully fleshed out. Some of them are fleshed out, but not all of them. The titular fights are a ton of fun. I like that they leveled the playing field by giving Kong electrical powers, which is something they kind of give a nod to in the new movie. The scene of Kong being transported on giant balloons will never not make me laugh. That shit is just priceless. My score is 4 out of 5. Number 2 is Kong Skull Island. The acting is great. The CGI is great. The action is great. This is a step up over Peter Jackson's King Kong. And unlike the 76 version, it actually tells a new story with Kong instead of just being a retread. The humor is consistently funny. The cinematography is great. The action is great.
Come on, you bastard.
The only thing this movie is missing is Andy Serkis portraying Kong, but honestly, the guy that got to play him is still fucking great. My score is 4 out of 5. Finally, my number 1 is the original King Kong. This movie's a classic for a fucking reason. It has the great writing of Peter Jackson's King Kong, but it's not 3 hours long. Special effects still hold up almost a century later. The music is good, the acting is great, and the action holds up pretty damn well. Also, here's a fun fact. When they were doing the stop motion effects for this movie, every time they would move Kong, their fingers would move his fur. And they were worried that that would break the illusion, that the audience would realize, oh, this is an effect, and it would take them out of the movie. Instead, people praised them for making it look like Kong's fur was blowing in the wind. So a legitimate, unavoidable mistake was praised as a great special effect. How about that? The score is 5 out of 5. Hey everyone, what's your ranking? Let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that. If you don't like the video, tell me why. Try to be constructive. Then subscribe anyway. You'll be notified when I upload a new video. Watch that, and then, you know, tell me why that one sucks. That's all for now. Stay safe in these crazy times.